Developmental Language Disorder. Ever heard of it? If the answer is no, you're not the only one, and you're not alone. Yet it's more common than autism, more persistent than childhood stuttering, and more impactful on life outcomes than most people realise. It affects around 7% of children, roughly 2 in every UK classroom. So that's nearly 2 million kids in total. And still, most teachers, parents, and even policymakers don't even know it exists. Welcome back to On the Verge YouTube channel. In today's video, we're going to talk about the hidden disability that it's quietly derailing childhoods, disrupting education, and dimming futures. This is developmental language disorder, or as also known as DLD, and why it deserves your attention. Let's begin with the basics. What exactly is developmental language disorder? DLD is a lifelong neurodevelopmental condition that makes it difficult for someone to understand and use spoken language. It isn't caused by hearing loss, low intelligence, or neurological damage. It stands alone. People with DLD often have normal, non-verbal intelligence, but when it comes to language, the very foundation of human connection, they face daily invisible battles. Imagine being a child in a bustling classroom. The teacher gives a two-step instruction. First, grab your workbook, then line up at the door. But while your classmates hop up and move without hesitation, your mind's still stuck on the first part. You don't understand what's being asked, you're lost in translation. That's DLD. And it's not just about speech, it's about language in all its forms, understanding it, processing it, and expressing it. That also includes vocabulary, grammar, storytelling, following conversations, even forming friendships. It affects academic success, social development, and emotional well-being. And unlike speech delays that children may grow out of, DLD doesn't go away. It's for life. Now, what is the hidden nature of DLD? DLD is often called a hidden disability because it rarely announces itself loudly. There are no obvious physical signs, no wheelchair, no white cane. Children with DLD might sit quietly in the back of the class, too embarrassed to speak, or they may lash out in frustration when they can't make themselves understood. Sometimes they're labelled as lazy, disruptive, attention seeking, but behind these surface behaviours is often a child who's simply struggling with language. Now, the hidden nature means DLD often goes undetected or misdiagnosed. A child may be seen as defiant when they don't follow instructions, but what if they just didn't understand? They might be thought of as slow or inattentive when really they're trying desperately to keep up in a language based world. And since these signs are subtle and vary from child to child, even trained professionals can miss it. Now, let's move on to signs and symptoms. So, what should we actually be looking for? Now, children with DLD may have a limited vocabulary or trouble learning new words. They might struggle to form full grammatical correct sentences, or jumble their words when trying to speak. Conversations can be hard. They may find it difficult to follow the flow, miss social cues, or have trouble staying on topic. Some avoid actually talking altogether. Others may act out because they feel constantly misunderstood. In school, they may have difficulty with reading and writing because those skills are rooted in language too. They may need extra time to complete tasks or struggle to remember spoken instructions. And in social settings, they might withdraw or become anxious because they can't communicate like their peers. It's no wonder that that DLD often leads to a cascade of problems: low self-esteem, social exclusion, academic failure, and mental health challenges. But what makes this even more heartbreaking is that with the right support, much of this is preventable. Move on to diagnosis. Getting a diagnosis is a critical step, but it's not always easy. To be diagnosed with DLD, a child's language difficulties must be significant enough to interfere with everyday life, and they must not be explained by other conditions like autism, hearing loss, or intellectual disability. This means speech and language therapists play a central role. They use standardized tests and observations to assess how a child understands and uses language in different contexts. But here's the problem. There aren't enough therapists, especially in schools, and in many areas there's little awareness of what DLD even is. Now, teachers may notice something's off, but without training, they may not connect it to language. Parents might sense their child is struggling, but don't know where to turn. This leads to late diagnosis, or worse, no diagnosis at all. And what you have to remember is the longer we wait, the wider the gap grows. Early intervention is crucial, and every missed year is a missed opportunity to challenge the trajectory of a child's life. There's a lot of misconception with the next bit I'm going to say, because the next part is what actually causes DLD. Well, the truth is we don't fully know, but researchers have found linked to a complex mix of genetic and environmental factors. There's a strong hereditary component. DLD often runs in families, but there's no single gene responsible. Instead, it appears to involve subtle differences in the brain, regions that handle language processing. It's important to note that DLD is not caused by poor parenting, a lack of exposure to language, or watching too much television. While a rich language environment helps every child, of course, those with DLD will still face difficulties, regardless of how supportive their upbringing is. That's what makes it a disorder, not just a delay. Now, we have to cover what the impact is. So we have the impact on education. So let's talk about school, because this is where the impact of DLD becomes painfully clear. Language is a gateway to learning. If you can't understand the question, how can you answer it? If you can't explain your thoughts, how can a teacher assess your understanding? Whether it's maths, science, English, or history, language is the key that unlocks every subject. So when a child has DLD, they're effectively locked out of learning. They may fall behind their peers, not because they not because they're not capable, but because they can't assess the curriculum in the same way as others. And unless teachers are trained to spot and support language needs, these children are left to silently struggle. Now, let's not forget the effects. The effects go far beyond academics. Poor language skills can lead to frustration, withdrawal, or acting out. These behaviours are often misread as behavioural problems, when in reality they're symptoms of a deeper issue. The result? As often punishments instead of support, exclusion instead of inclusion, isolation instead of understanding. Again, the list goes on. But let's move on to the impact of mental health, or the impact on mental health, sorry. Now, what I want you to do is imagine growing up in a world where you're constantly misunderstood, where you know what you want to say but can't find the words, where your silence is mistaken for stupidity or your frustration for aggression. That's the daily reality of many people with DLD. Unsurprisingly, this takes a toll on mental health. Of course, children with DLD are at higher risk of anxiety, depression, and low self-esteem. As they enter adolescence and adulthood, these risks often intensify, especially if their language needs remain unsupported. And it doesn't end when school does. Adults with DLD may struggle with job interviews, workplace communication, or maintaining relationships. The long-term impact can be profound, affecting everything from employment opportunities to overall quality of life. Also, what is the treatment and support? DLD is challenging, but it's not impossible. With the right support, people with DLD can thrive. The cornerstone of intervention is speech and language therapy. Therapists work directly with children to improve vocabulary, sentence structure, and social communication skills. Sessions are tailored to each child's needs and often use playful, engaging methods to make language practice fun and accessible. In schools, accommodations make a big difference. Simplifying instructions, using visual aids, allowing extra time for tasks, reducing pressure during speaking activities. These aren't expensive interventions when you think about it, but they require awareness and willingness to adapt, and also time. Parents are key too. Creating a language-rich home environment, reading together, talking through daily routines, playing games that encourage communication. All of this builds language confidence, and when parents are supported, children do better. Social inclusion matters just as much. Clubs, groups, and structured play can help children with DLD develop friendships and social skills in low pressure environments, because connection heals, belonging protects. Now, what about raising awareness? I mean, yeah, the biggest barrier we face isn't the disorder itself, it's the silence around it. It's the lack of awareness, the undiagnosis, the stigma. DLD is actually more common than autism, yet almost no one knows what it is. It's actually time to change that. We need public health campaigns. We need teacher training. We need parents to be informed, not blamed. We need GPs and educators to understand the red flags. And we need speech and language services that are properly funded. also accessible and available when they're needed most. Because the cost of inaction is enormous. When we ignore DLD, we don't just risk poor grades, we risk children losing faith in themselves. They're falling through cracks, giving up on their potential. And in a world already stacked against so many young people, that's a tragedy that we cannot afford. As you'll know, I always do my final thoughts. Um, Developmental language disorder may be invisible to the eye, but for those living with it, it affects deeply. It affects them deeply. Not just about words; it's about confidence, connections, and opportunity. For millions of children, DLD is the silent barrier that stands between them and the world. A barrier that holds them back not because they lack intelligence or creativity, but because their voice, their ability to express, understand, and connect is locked behind a wall of language difficulty. But here's the truth: it doesn't have to be this way. When we raise awareness, we unlock possibilities where we know what to look for. We start noticing the child who struggles to follow instructions, who avoids speaking up, who melts down when misunderstood, not as a problem to fix, but as a person to support. When we as educators understand DLD, we change the way we respond. We stop punishing what we think is defiance. We stop mislabeling what we assume is laziness. Instead, we choose compassion. We offer tools, we build bridges. We replace frustration with patience, silence with encouragement, exclusion with belonging, limitation with opportunities. These are all the things we can change. To every child living with DLD, I just want them to know that they're not broken. You are not less. Your voice matters, whether it comes quickly or slowly, through speech or signs, with words or gestures. What you have to say is worth hearing. So my advice to them is don't give up. You're not alone. To every parent, carer walking this path, unsure and often unheard, keep going. Your advocacy is powerful. Your instincts matter because you know your child. You are your child's most important ally. To every teacher, therapist, and policymaker, your understanding can change your life. Your willingness to see the hidden struggles, to adapt, to listen beyond the noise, it all makes a difference. And yeah, to all of us, this is our call to action, because we don't need louder voices to raise awareness. We need more listeners. We need a society that sees past what's obvious and steps up for what's been overlooked for far too long. When we speak up for those who are still learning to speak for themselves, when we create space for every voice, especially the quiet ones, we don't just change lives. No, we don't just change lives. We rewrite futures. And that's not just for them, but for all of us. And excuse me, and above all, let's never underestimate the power of language, or the silence of the people who fight every day to find theirs. Um, yeah, I just want to thank you for watching. If this video helped you understand DLD a little better, please don't keep it to yourself. Share it with somebody else. Start a conversation. Let's open eyes, challenge assumptions, and raise the volume on issues that have been quiet for too long. Don't forget to give it a like, comment, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Let's keep learning together and keep making the world a more inclusive place, one conversation at a time. So until next time, take care.